Okay, so let's get started here. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the June Team Studio and TLCC webinar. I'd like to introduce my co-hosts, Paul Delanevia and Howard Greenberg from TLCC, and welcome our speaker, Mark Leusink, who will be presenting Bootstrap4XPages today. My name is Colleen. I'm the head of marketing at Team Studio and your co-host today. Before we start, I'll be taking a few moments to tell you who we are and what we do at Team Studio. I'll then be passing the controls to Howard Greenberg at TLCC so he can do the same. And then we'll dive right into today's topic. So before we get started, a few administrative things to cover. So to protect your privacy, the attendee list is not public. You'll only see yourself as an attendee, but just so you know, we have over 390 people registered for today's webinar, and we're well on our way to getting those people on the call here. All attendees are muted during the session, so participation will be through the chat window and Q&A panel on the WebEx ribbon on your screen. So you can use the chat window if you have a general question or comment, and please use the Q&A panel for your questions to the speakers because that's where we'll be addressing them. We're doing Q&A at the end of the session, but you're welcome to ask your question at any point, and we'll circle back to it when we do the formal Q&A session once the presentation has ended. So this session is being recorded, and the link will be sent to you in a follow-up email in a few days. So if you're wondering whether or not you'll see the slides or the recording of this, you will in fact see it at the email address where you registered. So a little bit about Team Studio. We may have assisted you in the past with application development. We've been delivering developer tools, productivity tools to the Notes and Domino community since 1996. Specializing in source code control and version management, and these are still tools that we have today, and we encourage you to look into if you're not already using them. We moved into the mobile application arena in 2010 with Unplugged. So Unplugged gives you the ability to extend your Notes applications out to mobile devices. The unique thing about Unplugged is that it leverages the power of Xpages and provides a native app experience for the user. And a differentiator for Unplugged is that these applications will have the capability to function when offline. So on May 2nd, we released the Unplugged 3.1 version. This version brings Android up to speed with the improvements we made for iOS users in Unplugged 3.0 earlier this year. And it also offers some improvements for iOS users, so there's something for both platforms. With Unplugged 3.1, apps run twice as fast, and development of applications is easier than ever for both Android and iOS devices. And for more information on the release, check out the recent blog post on our website. It's been written by Mark Dixon, and it's titled Unplugged 3.1 Rewrites Xpages Android Engine. And just lastly here on this slide, I want to mention that we're the proud recipient of 2 IBM Collaboration Solution Awards for Unplugged, one in 2013 and the other in 2014, just this past January. At the Connect conference in this past January, IBM awarded Unplugged with the Best of Show and Chief Technology Officer Award. And then later in February at the IBM Partner World event, IBM recognized the platform as a finalist for a Beacon Award as well. So very proud about those 2 recognition points. In addition to Unplugged as a platform, we provide off-the-shelf templates. So you might have heard of Team Studio Continuity or OneView Approvals. Additional templates that we're offering is Customer View, which is a lightweight mobile CRM solution for your field workforce. With this, the mobile users have the ability to view, edit, and manage customer information. They also have access to large media files and videos like collateral, so that if they're at sales meetings with prospects and customers, they have easy access to this information and can present directly from their mobile devices. Unplugged works on all the major platforms, and we'd be happy to arrange a demo to show you how these tools work. You're welcome to contact me during this webinar in the chat window or contact us directly from our website or by phone. So additionally, I'd like to add that if anyone has suggestions about webinar topics or any ideas that we haven't covered in the past or that we have covered and you'd like to hear repeated, please also take the opportunity to use the chat window to make those suggestions to me directly, and we can definitely consider having those topics presented for future webinars. So the last bit here, some things that you might be interested in. Application developers, if you've built an application using the free Unplugged Mobile Xpages controls, which is available for download from OpenNCF, contact us for a chance to win a Bose music system. We're also running a promotion on our mobile business continuity application. If you would like to demo this mobile application before June 30th, you can be entered to win an iPad mini. All of the information is available on our website. Typically, we have banners for our promotions on the homepage, so if you want to see the scrolling banners and click on the one that you're interested in, you can contact us directly. So with that, I'd like to pass the presentation on to Howard. He can talk a little bit about TLCC, and then we'll dive into today's topic. So Howard, I'm just going to hand over the wheel here for you. Just let me know when you have it here.
Okay, thank you, Colleen.
Sure.
Okay, you should be seeing my monitor right around now. Colleen, do you see that?
Yes, I do. Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, good morning and good afternoon and good evening, everybody. My name is Howard Greenberg, and I'm a partner at TLCC along with Paul Delanebbia, who is also one of your co-hosts today. And before we get started about today's topic, which I'm very excited about, a little bit about TLCC. I know most of you are probably familiar with us. We've been around since 1997 doing Notes and Domino training for developers and admins and users. Our courses are self-paced courses, but we also can come on site and deliver a instructor-led private class, or we can do
Howard, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but you just kind of faded away.
Right. Paul, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, I can hear you too, but I don't hear Howard anymore. There are some people who in the chat window have indicated that the audio is out. I think you can hear me and Paul. It looks like Howard thinks we can hear him.
Let me speak for Howard.
Okay.
until Howard comes back, we do have a spring sale that's going on until the end of the month. There are quite a few deals for our popular Xpages courses and packages, so do check that out. And also announcing a new video blog series. So this is a little project I've been working on, and I'm starting out with a blog series called Introduction to Xpages, and you can find these videos at my blog site at pauldn.com. So check that out. In this first blog series, there's about 4 parts in it now. It'll probably end up with 6 parts. I'm walking through our Intro to Xpages course. That's a free course, so you can download the free course from our site and follow along with me as I go through that blog series. Howard, can you advance that slide?
Paul, why don't I try this? Oh, so keep going. I'll try and hand over rights to you.
So just a reminder, there are upcoming webinars in the fall, so do consider that. And Mark, I think really it's time for you. So let me pass over presentation to Mark. Mark, are you coming on board here?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Okay. Mark, take it away. Tell us about Bootstrap for Xpages.
All right. You sure you can hear me?
I can hear you, and I'm seeing your screen. It's coming up now, and now I can see your screen.
Yep. So we're all set. Okay. So good morning, good afternoon, and good night to everyone. I'm going to talk this afternoon about the Bootstrap for Xpages plugin, which brings the Bootstrap framework to Xpages. My name is Mark Leusink. and I'm one of the collaborators on the Bootstrap4XPages project. So here's the agenda. These are the topics we're going to cover this afternoon. I'm going to talk a little bit about what Bootstrap is and why you should use it. Then we're going to talk about how you can bring Bootstrap to Xpages. And you can actually do that in two ways. Either do that in a manual way, but there's a lot easier way through the Bootstrap4XPages plugin. After that, I'm going to talk about the how you can install the plugin, how you can get it from OpenNTF, how you can configure the plugin in your Domino Designer client, and how you can get started with using the plugin. And then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into using the plugins and using the Bootstrap4XPages plugin and the various components that are in there. Next, we're also going to cover a little bit about how you can create a custom theme for Bootstrap that you can use within the Bootstrap4XPages plugin to give your Bootstrap application a custom look and feel. And we're going to talk about a little bit about plugins. Bootstrap4XPages plugin comes standard with some additional plugins, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And of course, I have a lot of demos that I'm going to show you. So here's a little speaker intro. Like I said, my name is Mark Leusink. I am a freelance consultant / web developer. I do most development for web using Xpages, Java, mobile, and I also develop applications using Team Studios Unplugged. I'm one of the OpenNTF board members and also a contributor for various projects on OpenNTF. I'm one of the IBM champions, and I'm the creator of Bootstrap4XPages.com. This is not to be confused with the Bootstrap4XPages plugin. I created this site about a year and a half ago to share my experiences on using Bootstrap with Xpages. And like I said, I'm also one of the collaborators on the Bootstrap4XPages plugin. I'm not the original author. The original author of the plugin was Phil Rial from IBM, or recently from IBM, because he switched companies a couple of months ago. And I live in the Netherlands. That's not to be confused with Denmark, Germany, or any other European country. The little arrow over there indicates the little country I live in. If you're a fan of soccer and you follow the World Cup, then you might remember this guy. This guy's Robin van Persie, and he's also from the Netherlands, and he scored a beautiful goal last Friday in the match against the reigning world champion Spain, which we won with 5-1. So back to the topic for this afternoon, Bootstrap. Let's talk a little bit about what Bootstrap is. Well, Bootstrap is a set of UI elements that are available to web applications. Just out of the box, you get a lot of controls that you can use to make your apps look good. That's basically what it does. And using those elements, you can get started with your projects more easily, because you don't have to think about how to create a UI for your application. You just use the Bootstrap UI elements, and you instantly have a good look and feel for your application. It's very popular at the moment, and it has been for quite some time. It's still the #1 project on GitHub, which is a code sharing site. It has, well, if you are familiar with GitHub, then you know what these numbers mean. It has the most stars, and a star is something that you can give to a project that you really like. And it also has the most forks of any project on GitHub. And forks are projects that are based originally on the Bootstrap project. You also see a little graph on this slide showing the adoption increase in people using Bootstrap, and the point where the line increases a lot is July 2013, when they released Bootstrap version 3. So what is Bootstrap? If you download Bootstrap, then this is what you get out of the box. You get a set of carefully crafted CSS styles that you can use for typography and navigation. Bootstrap comes with a default font that looks different than any other font on the bottom. It has a really specific style to it. It also comes with a set of CSS styles for common controls like buttons, input controls, tables, panels, etc. And it also comes with a layout and grid system. And you can use that layout and grid system to easily set up a Bootstrap layout for your application and use grids, so you can easily split your page into a left column, a center column, and a right column, for example. And these layouts and grids come out of the box with responsive features. So if you look at a Bootstrap 3 site through a browser and then scale your browser window, or look at the same site using a smaller device with smaller real estate, like a smartphone or a tablet, then the grid automatically scales to the size of your page. You also get a set of icons using the so-called Leusink font, and they actually changed with version 2 to 3, which is now out for about a year. They changed the Leusink font system. Before version 3 and version 2, they used images to show the icons, and in version 3 they changed that, and you now get the Leusink font out of the box, which gives you all icons, and I think there are about 100 to 200 of those, and they scale infinitely. And out of the box, you also get a set of advanced JavaScript components like tabs, dialog, various different sort of dialogues. You get tooltips that you can attach to any object on your page, and you get more advanced controls like drop-down buttons, menus, etc. If you look under the hood of Bootstrap, if you download the latest Bootstrap release and you extract that zip file that you downloaded, this is all that Bootstrap actually is. It's not really magic. It's just a set of, well, it's 4 CSS files, 2 of which are actually the same as the other 2. They're the minified version with all the white spaces moved out. Then you get a set of fonts, and these are the different font formats that need to be included in the project to have support on desktop browsers as well on mobile devices. And you get one JavaScript file and the minified version of that, and that's all that Bootstrap is. So as advanced as Bootstrap is, it's not magic. Furthermore, Bootstrap relies on jQuery for its JavaScript plugins. You can use Bootstrap without using jQuery, but then you're not able to use all the JavaScript components that the framework offers. It has support for IE8 and upwards, and there are many add-ons available for Bootstrap. If you do a Google search for Bootstrap and you skip the main Bootstrap page, then you'll find that there are a lot of sites that are dedicated to all kinds of Bootstrap plugins. So you can get your own custom themes with a different look and feel, and I'll cover that topic a little later on in this webinar. You get different controls like a login dialog, for example. There are sites that are dedicated to sharing code snippets, and one of the tips I have is to have a look at bootsnip.com, which gives you a lot of inspiration on how to use the Bootstrap CSS and classes to create your layout. And all those resources come in free and in paid versions. The latest release of Bootstrap is version 3. Actually, it's version 3.1.1. And in version 3, they changed a lot compared to the version before that, which was 2.3. They built the entire framework from ground up and released that about a year ago in July 2013. And they also changed the mindset they had in building the Bootstrap framework. The Bootstrap 3 framework was built with a mobile-first thought behind it. So they first created the styles and classes to make it look good on smaller screens, and then they added an interface, or they added classes to also make Bootstrap look good on bigger screens like desktop browsers. And in version 3, they changed that the responsiveness. The responsive features of Bootstrap are now default. They are now default. In version 2, you had to load an additional style sheet to get responsive features, but you now get them out of the box. You can actually turn them off if you want to, but that's explained in a little bit more detail on the Bootstrap site. And of course, it's free, which for most people also is very important. So why would you use Bootstrap? Well, the users are demanding a sleek and polished UI probably more and more. They're used to getting all kinds of great apps from the various app stores, which have very slick and very polished UIs. The problem is where most of us listening to this webinar are developers, we're not designers. Photoshop is not our natural habitat. We're more confident working in Domino Design or in any other IDE. So that's one reason to use it. Another reason is a consistent UI makes your applications a lot easier to use. Users know where to find a button if you stick it on the same place on every page, and they can also easily scan a page for certain elements like buttons if they all have a similar look and feel throughout your entire application. Developing for mobile is also one of the reasons to use Bootstrap, including the responsive features I just mentioned. We'll talk a little bit more about responsiveness on a later slide. Another reason to use Bootstrap can also be to get a standardized look for all your applications. If you're a corporate developer and you're building all kinds of business-related apps throughout the week or throughout the year, then it's important for your users to have a standardized look for all those applications. It's probably also important from a corporate standpoint. And it helps you to deal with cross-browser issues, although this becomes less and less of an issue because almost all browsers are now up to a certain standard if you have the latest versions. There were a lot of cross-browser issues in previous versions, and Bootstrap takes away some of those issues. Most of you will probably be familiar with IBM One UI, and you should remember that One UI is offered through the extension library, is also an example of a UI framework. It gives you a standardized look with standard controls that you can use in your application. So how do we get Bootstrap in Xpages? Well, before the plugin was released, which was, I think the first version is about 8 to 9 months ago, August last year. This was what I did to get Bootstrap in my application. I went to the Bootstrap site, I downloaded the latest release. I then went to the jQuery site, downloaded a version of jQuery. I added all the files from the downloaded Bootstrap files and the jQuery version to my application. I then created an Xpage theme referencing all the Bootstrap files that I needed. So that's the CSS file, the jQuery CSS file, and the Bootstrap JavaScript file. And then I dealt with all the issues. Well, this method still is doable, but it's also adds a lot of work to your workflow, and it also increases the complexity of working with certain elements. And I'll say that the dialog component, which comes with the extension library, is a good example of that. Before the plugin was released, when you wanted to have a Bootstrap look and feel on a dialog on the next page, that was quite a pain because you had to change all kinds of CSS classes, and you had to change some of them manually or client-side using a piece of jQuery JavaScript. And those kind of issues have gone away with the Bootstrap4XPages plugin. With the Bootstrap4XPages plugin, you can now drag and drop a dialog component straight from the extension library from your controls palette in the Domino Designer client. You can just drag and drop it on your page, and you instantly have a Bootstrap look and feel on your application. So it takes away a lot of the pain. So what is Bootstrap for XPages actually? It's an OSGI plugin that you need to install once on your servers, and you need to install it on your designer client. And Bootstrap for XPages provides you with rendering for all, if not most, Xpages components that are available to you, either in the designer, in the Xpages core, or in the extension library. And this includes most of the Dojo controls. Like I said with the previous slide, this is really the easiest way to get Bootstrap into Xpages. It takes away all of the complexity that you had before the plugin was available. If you install the plugin on your server and in your designer client, then the only thing that you need to do is to change the theme of your application, and your application is Bootstrap enabled. It will automatically load the correct Xpage theme, which references all the Bootstrap CSS files, JavaScript files, jQuery, and all the stuff that you need to get started with Bootstrap. So you don't have to add anything anymore to your NSF. And another advantage is also that you can participate in the Xpage resource file application. So what Bootstrap for XPages also does, it combines certain files to make the download that people using your applications are you can participate in the resource file application. So the users need to make less requests to your server and need less bandwidth to get resources, and also have the resources fast to serve to them. So before we continue, let's do a quick demo first. The screenshots you're looking at, for most people, probably look familiar. This is the Xpages extension library demo application. So let me click on this and hope that, yeah, Chrome is launching. So what you see here is the standard Xpage extension library demo database. Actually, this is the first page you get when you open this application. You can browse through this application and view all the components that come with the extension library, which is now defaulting Domino 9 and higher. And you can probably also notice that this is by default based on One UI version 3, I think. And you'll see that same One UI look and feel throughout the entire application. So, for example, with this link, I get a modal pop-up that allows me to edit this user's details. You can see this has a black header bar, and the buttons also have all have a standard look and feel to them. This is a server I'm running locally, and if I go into my designer client now, open that same database in my designer client, go into the XSP properties tab, and change the application theme, which is now set to One UI 3.02. Change that to the latest Bootstrap version that's in the plugin. I'll save this page and I'll refresh it in my browser. And I made a typo here. Bootstrap 3.11. I refresh it in the browser, and the entire demo database now instantly has a Bootstrap look and feel to it. And it's important to remember here that this is not only about changing the style sheet. If you look into the source of this page, you'll actually notice that a lot of the class names that are used on various elements have changed, and that's all being taken care of by the Bootstrap for XPages plugin. So if I browse a little bit through this application again, let's go to this page in context dialogues. If I now hit the edit modal, if you remember or recall how it looked before I changed this, this dialog now instantly has a Bootstrap look and feel to it. And that's the same for every component that you see in this page. Go to second database. This is the Xpages demo app. This can be downloaded, I think, from OpenNTF. And This also by default has a One UI look and feel to it. And looking at this, it's probably One UI v2. By just changing the theme of this application from One UI v2.1 to Bootstrap v3.1.1. The design of the entire application changes. You notice that this application already has been configured a little bit to show the inverse navbar on top, so the black navbar instead of the grayish one. If you scroll throughout this application, you'll see that all the components instantly get a Bootstrap look and feel. I'll switch back once to the extension library database, and I'll show you that there are also other options you have when switching to a Bootstrap theme. For example, instead of just using v3.1.1, you can add v3.1.1_3D, which adds a very slight 3D effect to all components. Personally, I like this a little bit better than Bootstrap 3. I think out of the box it's a bit too flat for me. And this 3D effect is known very well throughout the Bootstrap community. This is actually also part of the Bootstrap download. And we added a feature to the Bootstrap4XPages plugin to, by just changing the theme, automatically include that 3D effect. The Bootstrap4XPages plugin comes with different versions. We not only have v3.1.1, but we will also still have support for 3.0.0 and for version 2.3.2. There isn't much difference between 3.0.0 and 3.1.1, but the difference between v2 and v3 of Bootstrap is very noticeable. So if I switch back to v2.3.2, you'll see that this database now looks like Bootstrap v2. All right, going back to the presentation. A little bit more about the Bootstrap4XPages plugin. All the resources that you need to get a Bootstrap enabled site, like a CSS, jQuery file, Bootstrap JavaScript file. If you use a plugin, they are all served through a global URL in your application. That's in contrast with if you add Bootstrap to every separate NSF, then every user using a different application will have to reload all the Bootstrap resources again. On a corporate network or a good Wi-Fi network, that's probably not an issue. But if you're on a if you don't have a good connection, or you're on a mobile cell phone with a 3G connection, then that performance difference might be noticeable. Bootstrap4XPages comes with a set of theme files that include all the Bootstrap required resources and also defines the components properties. In the demo I just showed you, I changed the theme from One UI to Bootstrap 3.1.1, and by just changing that, I'm telling the application to load up a different theme file, Xpages theme file, from the Bootstrap4XPages plugin, and that theme file contains everything you need to load Bootstrap. If it's sufficient, the plugin only sets the classes or styles and controls. So, for example, if I have a button in Bootstrap requires a specific class called BTN. And for buttons, the only thing that the Bootstrap4XPages plugin does is changing the class from Lotus Form button to a BTN. And that's all that's needed to give a button a Bootstrap look and feel. There are more complex cases, and I'll go back to that dialog example. For a dialog to have a Bootstrap UI on a modal dialog, it's not enough to only change the classes and specific elements. It also requires changing some JavaScript and changing the HTML structure that's rendered by the Xpages engine. So for those more complex cases, the Bootstrap4XPages plugin has custom renderers which change the output that the server generates to render a modal dialog or any complex control. And these custom JSF renderers, if you Bootstrap4XPages is completely open source, so if you download the original source from GitHub, and there's a reference later in this slide deck, you can have a look at the source, and all the renderers are organized in a very strict hierarchy, and it's relatively easy if you know what you're doing to inherit or customize any of the components in the Bootstrap4XPages plugin. Currently, the plugin supports four versions from 2.3.1 to 2.3.2, 3.0, and 3.1.1. 2.3.1 will be removed in the next release, because the upgrade from 2.3.1 to 2.3.2 was only a maintenance release with a lot of fixes, so it's not really needed anymore to keep supporting 2.3.1. And the focus in the plugin is on Bootstrap 3, but we'll continue to keep 2.3.2 for compatibility reasons. With the plugin, it's easy to create new Bootstrap-specific components, and I did that a couple of months ago by integrating a third-party plugin in the Bootstrap4XPages plugin. Using the samples that were provided in the source code, I was able to create a custom control that you now automatically get if you install Bootstrap4XPages in your designer client. And Bootstrap4XPages, Bootstrap relies on jQuery for some of the JavaScript functions, so Bootstrap4XPages comes with jQuery 1.8.2. There are also two libraries no longer in use, but they are still bundled in the plugin: Bootstrap and Dojo Bootstrap, which provide a Dojo-based implementation of Bootstrap and a Dojo theme rendering of digits from the Dojo theme set with a Bootstrap look and feel. But these two projects aren't used anymore because we kept having problems with new releases of Bootstrap coming sooner than releases of these projects. So it's now easier to support Bootstrap4XPages, to support Bootstrap in the Bootstrap4XPages plugin, like the way it's offered through the Bootstrap site. I mentioned that Bootstrap4XPages is a so-called OSGI plugin, and we're going to cover how you can install that plugin on your server. I imagine that a lot of people already have done this, or maybe another plugin, maybe the extension library in 3.9. But I'll cover it anyway. What you need to do to get Bootstrap4XPages on your server is first to get a compiled release from OpenATF, and the link is mentioned here. Like I said, if you really want to dig into the plugin, you can also download the full source code from GitHub. There's an alternative to downloading Bootstrap4XPages, which is by downloading the OpenATF Essentials. The OpenATF Essentials is a library or a set of let's call it essential projects that you can use for XPage development. And I would really advise you to look into that because the projects in there are really useful to speed up your XPage development. Bootstrap4XPages is part of those OpenATF Essentials. The OpenATF Essentials is delivered as an update side database, and it's really easy to get that update side database installed on your server. Just refers it, you get all the plugins that are available in that download. So once you have the download from OpenATF, you need to deploy the plugin on your Domino server as well into Domino Designer. On your Domino server, the preferred way to do that would be through an update side database. So you create a new database on your server called an update site. You let it reference from the Eclipse update site template that's available by default on every Domino server. You import the plugin to that update side database, and then this line OSGI HTTP dynamic bundles has to be added to the nodes.ini file to let the server know where it can find the what update site it should load. And then in Domino Designer, you can install it by using the File Application Install menu. But you have to make sure that the enable clip plugin install option is enabled in the Domino Designer preferences. And by default, that option isn't enabled. So if you want to install, if you want to use the Domino Designer local web preview option, then there's one additional step needed to use Bootstrap4XPages with that. Because if you install it through Designer, you won't get that. The plugin won't be available to anything you try to preview in the local web preview. You need to copy the futures and the plugin folder that's available in the Workspace Applications Eclipse folder. You need to copy that over to the Domino Workspace Application Eclipse folder. This is also covered in a little bit more detail in a session called Implementing the Xpages Extension Library by Paul Calhoun. And there's a link to that slide deck over there. So I would advise you, if you want to use local web preview, to have a look at that slide deck. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the local web preview option because it's too often too different from anything that's happening on the server. So I would advise you to just get a local development server. After you've installed the server, you can check if it's installed on your server by entering this command in your server console, and the output that you're looking for is the one on the bottom, saying framework is launched with a reference to the version of Bootstrap4XPages that you have installed. So I'm going to walk you through the installation in the Designer client and on the Domino server. So what we do is on the Domino server, we create a new update site database. We give it a name that we remember. Enable this option, show advanced options. We set the template server to the same server that I installed my update site. Then I want to install my update site on. And I'll select the Eclipse update site template. Hit OK, and then I get a blank update site database. And what I'll do next is then use the import local update site database. And I can show you that I've already downloaded the latest release of the Bootstrap4XPages plugin, extracted that to a folder on my desktop, and extracted the update site.zip file. So if I open this update site, you can see now that this contains the actual update site that I need to import into the update site database. So what I'll do is I'll browse through that file I downloaded. I'll get into the extracted zip file contents, go into the update site folder, and select the site.xml file. Then I'll hit open, and then I'll click OK. And then it will import the plugin. And that's all that's needed on the server. It might be that if you're trying to import a local update site, that you get an error, some kind of loader script error. And I've seen that a lot if you have nodes running as well as the Designer client. So if you see that error, if you try to install a local update site, close down the nodes client, close down the Designer client, restart the nodes client only, and try again. It will probably help. So I install the plugin in this update site database. Then I'll need to go into my Nodes.ini file, and I need to add that OSGI HTTP dynamic bundles line to it. Now after I've done that, I'll restart the server, and I can check on the server if the plugin is installed. And here you can see that this server has a version of Bootstrap4XPages installed. So the server is OK. Next, I'll go to my Designer client, its file, application, install, select search for new features, select add a folder location or add a zip jar location, either one of those. If you select the zip jar location, then you need to select the zip file that's in the Bootstrap4XPages download, the update site zip file. You just hit OK, next, next. You need to accept the license agreement, and then you need to restart Domino Designer Client, and you should be all set. So that's all you need to do to get the server, to get a plugin, Bootstrap4XPages plugin running on your server as well as on your Designer Client. Once you have the plugin on your server and on your client, then there are 2 steps in every application that you want to have Bootstrap enabled that you need to perform. First step is to enable the required Xpages libraries, and there are actually 2 that you need to enable: the extension library and the Bootstrap library. And I've written down the ones that you need to select. Then you need to set the application theme to one of the Bootstrap versions that's supported with the plugin, and I've mentioned all of them here. Note that these themes won't show up in the application theme dropdown. You have to enter them yourself, and make sure that you don't make an error like I just did, because it won't work that way. Also, I've had a situation where I did change the application theme but forgot to enable the Xpages libraries, and then it looks like you enabled the Bootstrap4XPages plugin, but you'll end up with all kinds of strange errors, and you spend probably an hour looking what went wrong. So please note that you do need to perform both steps to completely enable Bootstrap4XPages. And then there's actually a very small third step, which involves changing the doc type of your applications to HTML5. This is actually not a required step, but it is a recommended step, and especially it's recommended by Bootstrap himself to ensure the best compatibility for your site for all browsers. You can find the HTML doc type in the XSP properties page generation page. And the option that you need to set is called HTML doc type, and you need to set it to HTML5 for best results. What this will do is, in the output of a page, if you have a look, going back to the to Chrome, to the browser, if I look at the page source, you'll notice a doc type declaration at the top of this page, and it's now set to strict. If you set this to HTML5, then this line will change. And this will tell the browser the rendering mode it should use to render the site that has this doc type set. Right. So let's do a demo of a first application that I'm going to use Bootstrap in. I'll just create a new database on my local server I have running here. Let's call it Bootstrap4XPage webinar, and we'll just call it webinar.NSF. Right. We'll create an Xpage in this new application, and we're gonna enter some text here, and I'll also add let's do a button so you can easily see what the result is of using Bootstrap. Let's change the ACL for this so I don't have to log in. Actually, well, that doesn't matter. I'm already logged in anyway. If I now preview this page, you'll see that this Xpage now has a default look and feel for any Xpage that you create on the Domino server. So I'll now go into the XP properties, and I'll change the theme to Bootstrap 3.3.1. I'll also go into the page generation tab, and I'll enable both of the required libraries. and I'll set the HTML doc type while I'm here to HTML5. Save this, reload this, and that's all there is to it. You can see now that the text format has changed, and this button now has it looks like a standard Bootstrap 3 button. If I want to have a different style on the button, you can look you can look into the Bootstrap documentation site to see what options you have on the various Bootstrap Bootstrap components. So this is the button I just copied, and since it is just plain Bootstrap, the page you were just looking at is the next page that also automatically loads the Bootstrap CSS file. I can use any style that Bootstrap also offers, and that you can read it on the documentation site. So I know that Bootstrap buttons by default have a style class called BTN, and they also have classes for various different types of buttons. So if I make this a button primary, save this, reload this, you can see that I've now added a button with a different color to make it more easily stand out. The page I just showed you is kind of plain. It kind of misses the look and feel that you see on all Bootstrap pages. So what we can do is create a layout, and the application layout control that's in the extension library comes with its own configuration object for the Bootstrap properties. So what we did in the plugin is we created a new configuration object that you can enable in the application layout control that you can use to set all kinds of Bootstrap properties. And I've mentioned a few of those here, like navbar inverted, which is a property which tells Bootstrap to load the inverted navbar or the static navbar. There's also a property coming soon called navbar fixed, which gives you a fixed navbar at a fixed position at the top of your screen. And there's a property called page width, which defines the page width model that your application uses. And I'll show you a demo of this. So we're going back to our application, and I'm going to create a new custom control called layout. And what I'll do here is I'll go to the extension library control or palette, and I'll drop the application layout in here. And this line at the top now says configuration 1UI application configuration, but I'll change that to Bootstrap application configuration. And then there's one additional step that I need to perform. It says here XE 1UI application. I'll remove that and I'll change that also to a Bootstrap application. You can now see that all the properties that Bootstrap4XPages provides, all the extra properties on the application layout control are now available to you to set. So let's go with all the defaults, and we'll change them a little later. If you're familiar with this Bootstrap application configuration object, you'll notice that this version has a couple of new properties. This is because I've installed a test version of a new release of the Bootstrap4XPages plugin, which we plan to release hopefully within a week or two. It's currently being tested. So I'll save this, and I'll let the application layout know that I want to have a left column and I want to have a center column. I've saved the layout custom control, and I'll go back to my main Xpage. I'll get rid of this content here, and I'll drop in the layout control. And let's see what this now does. Oh, not much, but I can see that the layout control is loaded because it now has a bar on top. So what I'll do is I'll switch back here, and I'll add some contents to our page using a facet. I believe there was another webinar recently which told you all the ins and outs of this application layout control. So you should be familiar with this syntax. Let me see, I probably made an error somewhere, and that's why I have a backup site. I think I didn't specify the XP keys correctly. Let's go back. Here is facet. Well, let's just copy this layout control here. Here we go. I just set some different properties on this application layout control. So the navbar inverted property is now set to true, where the default of this property was false. So if I change this back to false or true, I get the fixed or the I get the inverted or the standard navbar. And let's go back to my main page, see if I can add some content to this site. So what I'll do using two facets, I'll set some content on the left column and on the center column. So the left column is now set to the text left column, and there's a button in the center column. This already starts to look as a Bootstrap site. So I prepared another example with a little bit more content to it. So by just creating that application layout and setting that up, you can instantly get a Bootstrap themed layout. And I'll walk you through the other options that we have in the application layout control. So we talked about the navbar inverted option. The navbar fixed option is set here to true. So this should give me a navbar which is static on the page. If I make this page a little bit smaller, or I'll just add a lot of content to it. Let's see, can do that. Here we go. You can see that if I scroll down, the navbar on top remains at its fixed position. So that's also a property that you can set on the Bootstrap application object. Then there's the page width property, and you can use this to determine the page width model that you want to use in your application. And these actually come from the Bootstrap implementation. So the fixed option gives you a fixed width layout that scales if you make your application smaller. So by default, I think it's on the most widest screen, it's 1170 pixels. If you then scale this application down to a smaller screen, that fixed container will be scaled to 970 and even smaller on smartphones. You can also set it to fluid, which is another Bootstrap default, and this will get you a layout control that has the full width of the page at its disposal. And then there's a default option, which was the default in previous versions of the Bootstrap4XPages plugins. And this just uses the entire page without the margins on the side. You notice that I've used the product logo alt attribute here to set the text of my application. Bootstrap has an area in their navbar called the brand, and you can use this attribute product logo alt to set that to set a static text here, or you can use the product logo attribute to set a image in that location. So that's getting started with the application layout control. Navigation. If you're building Xpages, and you probably at one time have used the XC Navigator control to generate a menu. The XC Navigator control is a generic control that you can use to add menu options, child menu options to it. And the Bootstrap4XPages plugin will automatically create a Bootstrap styling for the menu options that you added to a XC Navigator object. So going back to the demo site, you can see here that they already have 3 menu options in the left column, and if I view the source of that column, where is on this page, you'll see that the only thing that's added to that left column is a XC Navigator control with 2 3 nodes. The first 3 nodes shows me a list of all the views I have in my database, and the second one is a fixed one with a label of config. So that's all there's needed to create a Bootstrap Navigator in your left column. Another example, a Bootstrap view. What Bootstrap4XPages does, it analyzes the configuration of the view that you're adding, view panel control that you've added to your page, and then it will automatically adjust all the classes and styles needed to also give your views a Bootstrap look and feel. And I can probably demo you that best with the extension library demo database. You remember that we changed the theme used in this database to Bootstrap 3.2, and you can see here in the data view page, which is available in the domino tab, that this page containing a view, domino view, which by default is collapsed, and I can expand that, and you'll notice that all of the elements on this page have the specific Bootstrap look and feel to it. So from this change, and we also change the icons on the view panel. Same goes for categorized views.
Mark,
categorized views.
This is Paul. We're just seeing it right now. We didn't see your last couple of demos when you switched over to show the views.
All right. So are you seeing my browser now?
Now we are seeing it. I think it was on the screen.
Okay. So I'm showing the data view page, data view demo of the extension library demo database, and I showed that all the views here now have this specific Bootstrap look and feel to it, and the only thing we changed in this database was the theme that was used in this application. We didn't change any code, and the Bootstrap4XPages plugin just converts it to have all the classes needed and styles needed to get a Bootstrap look and feel. Okay, I'm switching back to my slides. The dialog. It's also very easy to use with the Bootstrap4XPages plugin. If I go into that same main page, the only thing I need to do is go into my extension library palette, grab a dialog, drop that in here, and then I can drop in a dialog button bar or a dialog content area at the correct position. I'll add some content. I'll add a button to the button bar. Here we go. And let's see, I already have a button on this page, and I'll just let that button open the dialog. So going back to that example page, here we are. That's all there is to it to create a Bootstrap modal on your Xpage. Some of the responsive features, as you might know about it, Bootstrap4XPages, Bootstrap is responsive by default in version 3, and we support that in the plugin. In the all the menu options in the top navbar, and optionally in the left column, and they're configured using these three attributes in that same Bootstrap application layout configuration object. The collapsed left column option is already available in the current release of the plugin, and in the coming next release will also include the collapsed left menu label option, which allows you to set a label on the button, and the collapsed left 2 option that allows you to set the location where the plugin should render the button to show the left column menu. And I'll show you an example of this. I'll go back to my sample application. I'm going to my layout object. So this is the page where I can set all the properties on my application layout. And you'll see that the collapsed left column property is set to true. The menu label is set to menu. We'll change that to demo. And we'll leave the rest as it is. And I'll save this. Go back to my application in the browser. You'll notice that this page is now fully expanded, and I can see this home menu link on top and my name at the top right. And in the left column, I have these three options. But if I now make the screen a whole lot smaller, like for example on a tablet or on a mobile device, you can see that the responsive features of Bootstrap automatically kick in and give you this top menu button in a dropdown. The same goes for the menu I had on the left. And this is done by only changing one property on the application layout object. I can show you a better example by going to the sample database of the extension library. You can see all the menu options here. And the only thing I changed here is that property on the application layout configuration object, and I'll get all the menu options in a nice drop down here, and the menu options in my left-hand navigator in a separate drop down. Let's go through some best practices. I'm looking at the time, I only have a couple of minutes left. So that's good because I only have a couple of slides left. Let's talk a little bit about some of the best practices. If you're using Bootstrap4XPages, then I would recommend to use standard components as much as possible, because you can run into problems if you don't, especially if you upgrade the version of the Bootstrap4XPages plugin, especially the Bootstrap version in there. For example, with Bootstrap 2.3, with the upgrade from Bootstrap 2.3 to version 3, Bootstrap changes a lot of these style names and class names that you use on the various elements. And if you only use standard controls the way they are, and by just changing the theme in your application properties, you'll instantly get all the new features. I would also recommend to use the extension library components as much as possible, because they have been adjusted to deal with Bootstrap and to deal with how Bootstrap solves things, as well as how Xpages requires you to build components like that. And the dialog is still the best example for that. With the manual way of adding Bootstrap to my applications, I have gotten the standard dialog to work, but it still was a very complicated process. And with the Bootstrap4XPages plugin, all that pain is just taken away, and you can just use the standard dialog out of the box. Well, this is maybe kind of a no-brainer, but I would recommend to use a build from OpenNTF source code in production systems. The build has compiled and minified resources, so it will provide you with some with better performance and also less requests that the page has to make to the server. And it's also important to know that you can use resources from the plugin, so the CSS file or the JavaScript files, without using the themes, but that's really not advised, because the themes that Bootstrap4XPages provided also gives you additional functionality. For example, they set the standard classes that need to be used on certain type of forms and type of controls. So it also always advises you to either use a theme that's provided through the Bootstrap4XPages plugin directly, so set your theme property to Bootstrap v311, or extend one of the default themes if you do want to add your custom CSS or custom classes. Okay, we'll do a quick run through of one of the plugins that's now available in the Bootstrap4XPages plugin. It's called Select2. That's a picker that I really like and that I integrated in the Bootstrap4XPages plugin. And what I did is I took the standard pickers that are available in the extension library and extended those using Select2, and that instantly gives you the option to, for example, build use a view data source to that and link it to that Select2 plugin. You can actually use the plugin in two ways. You can link it directly to a combo or list box that you have on your page, and it's just a matter of adding one control from the Bootstrap palette to your page to have it Select2 enabled. Or you can use the Select2 picker and add your own data source to that. So I'll show you an example of that. This is what the Select2 pick integration looks like using the Bootstrap4XPages plugin. This is a standard combo box, but if you enable Select2 on those combo boxes, you get nice features like type ahead. Or you can use the enhanced list box for multi-values. If you have a combo box, if you ever use a combo box for a list box on your page and you want to have users select multiple values, then you'll probably know that you have to instruct them to press down on the control key and then select multiple values. But using this Select2 plugins, it's just as easy as clicking with your mouse. And this is a lot more intuitive to use for your users than these standard combo boxes. These examples are linked to these are all linked to a standard combo box. We also have some examples of using a view or a bean as a data source for Select2. So, for example, this option, this control was linked to a view. You can also use it to do full text search on those views. And if you look at the source of how these samples were created, if you have a combo box that looks like this, I'll remove this for this demo. Let's go to my other demo page. Okay, so this is a standard combo box. We'll get rid of this stuff that we don't need. Oh, actually, I have my standard combo box here at the middle of my source code. The only thing I now need to do is go into Bootstrap palette, select the Select2 pick of a combo or list box, got that in here, And then I need to link this to the existing combo box. So I go into the properties of this control, select the for attribute, and select the combo box that I already had on my page. If I now save this, go back to the browser, you'll see that this combo box is now select to enabled. It gives you all the features that select to gives you, like searching and type ahead. Almost done here. Custom themes. Bootstrap can be fully customized with your own look and feel. The example on the right of this page is also Bootstrap with a pretty ugly 1980s GeoCities look and feel on top of it. If you actually look at the source code of this page, you'll notice that it's really clean, just like any Bootstrap site. But they, just for fun, they added a Bootstrap theme, giving you this look, and you can change everything that you want using custom themes. The recommendation of me would be to do that. If you want to change themes, Bootstrap themes, then I would recommend to read up a little bit LESS, which stands for Linear CSS. LESS is a so-called CSS preprocessor. You can think of it as using variables in CSS files, and that's it comes with some pretty advanced commands that you can add to your CSS file. You can not only say that I want to have this thin color always red. You can also say, well, the primary color of this page is red, but in the nav bar, I want to have a gradient that starts with the red color and then moves to a 30% darker color to the bottom. So that's also the way that Bootstrap4XPages, that Bootstrap can be configured using less. If you actually download the full Bootstrap source code, which you can download it from the standard Bootstrap site on getbootstrap.com, and you'll explore that zip file, you'll notice that Bootstrap comes with all the less and CSS source files that you actually need. It also comes with a task runner configuration that can automatically compile your CSS files. And the page I've linked to here at the bottom will show you exactly the details on how to do that. There are also two other different ways to get a custom look and feel on your Bootstrap enabled site. You can either use a pre-built theme from a site called like Bootstrap4XPages.com, or you can create a theme using one of the Bootstrap theme rollers that are out there. I'll show you a quick demo on how you can use one of the pre-built theme. If you go to this Bootstrap4XPages.com site, you can download any of the themes that they provide for free. And if I click on this, either one of those, I can have a look at it. How it, I can look how it appears on my screen. And then I can use the download link here at the top to get the CSS file. And if I click on this, I get this CSS file, which I can then add to my database. So, for example, in this extension library demo database, I'll go into the style sheet section, and I can import a style sheet here that I downloaded from the site. Just find it. Here we go. And we can now reference this style sheet in my own theme. So what I'll do is I'll create a new theme in my application. And I'll use that style sheet that I just uploaded to my database so that it's automatically included in the application. I only need to do one thing here. Since I want to build this on top of Bootstrap, I need to change it. This to one of the built-in Bootstrap themes. Switch the accessory properties files to use that new theme file. If I now go to the browser, cross my fingers, I'll get a different look. It's not very noticeable with this theme, but you can probably notice that this now has a different font and some different colors. like I said, a new release is currently being tested, and I hope to release it next couple of weeks. Here are some of the new features that are available in the new release of Bootstrap4XPages. The page width model to use can be set in the application configuration. You can set the label position of the left net menu. You have added an option to make the nav bar static or a fixed position at the top. We added some base themes that you can use in combination with custom Bootstrap themes I just showed you. We upgraded jQuery to 1.11. Spec 2 was also upgraded to 3.46. Improved some of the picker layouts, and we added a lot of fixes to the plugin. So this is hopefully coming in the next 1 or 2 weeks. After that, Bootstrap 3.2 has already been announced for this month. So if it's released, I'm probably going to add support for that to the plugin. And I also have a lot of ideas for extending the plugin. There's also a big but there. I need your help, or we need your help. We can always use more contributors to contribute code to the project. Like I said, it's open source, so you can download the source, play with that for yourself, install a local development environment, and change the plugin and make changes and add plugins or change the rendering of controls. There are many ways that you can help, and it kind of depends on what skill set you have. So if you have the skills, you can add new Xpage components, implement new Bootstrap releases like the 3.2 version that's coming this month, or integrate new themes, or you can write documentation or help testing. Florian did a good webinar about a year ago on how you can set up your Eclipse development environment to also contribute to the project. So if you want to do that, I'll advise you to have a look at that. That's it. I've probably said this a couple of times before, but Bootstrap4XPages is probably the best way to go on if you want to use Bootstrap in your applications. It's just a lot easier to use than doing just standard Bootstrap in your just adding Bootstrap the standard way, importing all the resources in your database, etc., etc. Just using the Bootstrap4XPages plugin is a lot more easier, a lot more convenient for you. Like it says here, it takes the pain out of getting Bootstrap to work with Xpages. It makes development with Bootstrap a lot more fun. That's it.
Great.
There's a couple of references here, and a big thank you for all listening.
And thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
And you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
I'm back with everyone. Okay, well, thanks. That was a great presentation, Mark, and the enhancements you've made in the last couple of months look really good. I'd like to thank you for all your hard work on this project. I know you've kind of been the main contributor since you kind of took it on from Phil, and you've made some great improvements, and the whole community would really like to thank you for all your hard work. And everyone out there, Mark could use some help, even if it's just testing. So shoot them an email if you can spare a few cycles with, even if you're not a incredible developer writing Java Eclipse extensions, you could still help with testing and documentation.
Exactly. If anyone, one more thing. If anyone wants to test the new release of the Bootstrap4XPages plugin, just drop me an email.
Okay, good. Yeah. So send Mark an email if you can help test that new release that he is coming out. Mark, if you can transfer the controls over to me, just drag that little ball over to my name. And we have a number of questions lined up. First, let me go through how you ask a question in case you haven't used WebEx before. In the Q&A pane at the top, you should have a Q&A button, or I should say the WebEx ribbon bar at the top of your monitor. You might have to move your mouse pointer to the top of the screen to see it. You want to click on Q&A, and that'll be the Q&A panel where you can ask the questions. So don't ask in the chat panel. We use the Q&A panel, and a number of you have already asked some questions. So Paul, do you have some questions lined up?
Yes, a question from Rick. So what is the minimum version of Domino required to install Bootstrap4XPages? Are there any, an extension of that, any requirements or problems using it with iSeries?
Sorry, what was that last part? Any problem with using it with?
With iSeries.
I'm not aware of any problems of using it with iSeries. It's using a standard OSGI plugin structure. So any other OSGI plugin should probably also work that, although I've not tested that. The minimum required version of Domino to use is H53, including the extension library.
Okay. Howard, do you have a question?
Yes. Andrew asked, is it, I'll quote him, is it a bit naughty to have Dojo and jQuery simultaneously in an application?
It's a bit naughty, but it works pretty well because they're separated into their own namespaces. So a couple of applications I built in the past year using Bootstrap4XPages and using a combination of Jojo as well as jQuery, and I've never had problems with those.
Okay. And by the way, a number of you have asked about either getting the presentation or getting a recording of the webinar. That will be in an email that will be sent to you in the next couple of days. So you will get an email from Team Studio, and that will have the link to both the presentation and the recorded webinar from today. So we have a question from Tony. You are using the data view control. Are there any other options to show like a grid?
Well, you could use a standard repeat control and use the Bootstrap4XPages classes that you can set on tables. And I know that Bootstrap4XPages, that Bootstrap comes with a couple of classes that you can set to also add responsive features to tables. So that's one option. The other option would be to add a plugin that leverages Bootstrap styles to your project.
Okay, I've got a question from Fabian here. Do you have a solution for people who don't have access to a server? So how do we get Bootstrap configured in Designer and with the local preview?
Well, there was one slide in my my slide deck on that. You'll need to copy some files over from one folder to another folder, and that slide is going to be in the downloaded file. So if you look it up in the slide deck, and by just copying the entire plugin from one folder to another folder, restarting Designer, then the plugin should also work in your local web preview option.
Okay, we got another question mark from Tony. Using the form table control, is there any options? Are there other options with Bootstrap for validation controls? And does the form table and form layout columns and rows work?
Well, they kind of work. You can get a form layout using the standard form table controls, and it looks reasonably well. But if you want to use the exact Bootstrap structure that Bootstrap provides for responsive forms, then you need to hand code it at the moment. But that's also an option that I want to look into in the near future, because that's interesting to add to the Bootstrap4XPages plugin.
Okay, I have a question from Henry. How to use the glyphicons? Oh, no, I've lost it. With your standard Xpage buttons.
Yeah, what you do is if you have a standard button that starts with a XP:button code, then inside the button, what you do is you add the Bootstrap styling for adding glyphicons. So what you do is inside of that button control, you'll add a you can add some hard-coded HTML. And what I usually do is I use the I tag for that. So I do a I and then I set a class on that I tag to glyphicon and then the glyphicon dash and then the icon you want to use. And if you use that text structure, then you'll get a glyphicon from Bootstrap inside of your buttons.
Okay, got a question from Mark, not from Mark, from Don, for Mark. How do you manage the Bootstrap for XPages versions with OpenNTF Essential versions? Is there some sort of schedule in terms of when the Bootstrap for XPages updates will get rolled into the Essentials?
No, it's a the release cycle of both projects is different. So when there is a new release of Essentials, the project owner looks to see if there are any projects in the OpenNTF Essentials that have been upgraded, and then he just adds those upgraded projects to OpenNTF Essentials. So release cycles are different. But what you can also do is you can also use OpenNTF Essentials as well as the Bootstrap for XPages plugin. So with the Essentials, you get a specific release of Bootstrap for XPages, and then when a new release comes out, you can just add that specific new release to your environment, and then you'll still have the OpenNTF Essentials with the new Bootstrap for XPages release.
Okay, thanks, Mark. And by the way, the folks who are asking about the local web preview, in other words, using the project without a server, Andrew Majerman has a blog. If you just do his main website, I won't say the whole link, but it's blog.
Howard, I just posted the link.
Okay, so is that in the chat?
Q&A area. Yes.
In the chat poll or the Q&A?
In the Q&A. Andrew posted it, and I just published it.
Okay, very good. All right, then I think we had one more question from Laurel, also about the glyphicons and having them work on IE8. Have you had any issues with that, Mark?
I've seen issues with that in the past, but I must say that I forgot how I solved it. You can drop me a note either through Twitter or on my blog or on my email address. I'll look into that and I'll look that up.
All right, well, thanks, Mark. I think that's about all we have time for.
All right, great.
Thanks so much again for presenting. And so as a reminder, we're going to be taking a short break on the webinar series until September. And in September, we will have 2 speakers from IBM talking about Notes Mail Next, and Pete Jensen's also going to speak about what's coming up for application developers for Notes and Domino. So we'll be getting in touch with everyone regarding the exact dates of those and the link to register when it's ready. So everyone, if I don't talk to anyone or everyone, have a great rest of your day and a great summer, and we'll catch up with everyone again in September.
Okay, have a great summer. We'll see you in September, or speak to you in September. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.